This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so before I start, let's keep this session a little bit interactive. So, can you tell me what exactly you know about SAP S/4HANA? What is SAP S/4HANA according to you? Whatever things you heard till now, whatever things you know already, just tell me. We will keep the points and then we will discuss each and every point in detail. What is your understanding on SAP S/4HANA? What do you already know? Anything?
So Vikram, this is Dinesh. SAP S/4HANA is basically the new version, which S4 stands for Suite for HANA. So this
Okay.
what this means is the database is of course HANA database, and the earlier programs which were on the ECC, they are now revamped and restructured to be working on the HANA database. So the Suite for HANA is a new version of the old functionalities. It basically covers most of the functionalities. It has, in addition to that, newer interfaces in terms of the SAP Fiori, and there are other uh, simplifications in terms of the processes, and many tables have been restructured, etc. So this is what I know about S/4HANA.
Okay.
Vikram, this is Praful.
Yes.
It's basically the in-memory computing. There is no separate database layer. The entire database is in the live cache. Hence, it is extremely fast,
Mm-hmm.
and it combines both online analytical processing as well as online transaction processing into one platform.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What else? What about the user interface?
It has a Fiori-based user interface, which is new.
Okay. What about the deployment options?
You can have it in cloud or on premise.
Okay. Anything else that you want to add here? Zahir, there is some noise from your side.
I think it's a columnar database as opposed to rows, the way of storing data.
Okay. Okay. So maybe let's try to understand these pointers before we go in the other details of what is SAP S/4HANA. So as you said, number one is correct. It is a new product from SAP. So till now we were using, if we go with the history of SAP, there were multiple products that SAP has delivered throughout these years, right? So they started off with R1 in 1972, then they came up with R2, then they came up with R3, then they came up with ERP in 2005. And now in 2015, SAP came up with the latest product, that is SAP S/4HANA. And as you said, it stands for, what is the
Hello,
full form of SAP S/4HANA? Yes.
Vikram, hold on. There is an attendee who has not given the name. I'd like to know the Munish is there. Munish, are you there? Uh, okay, no problem. So please give your name so we can understand who is present.
Yeah, let tell you, Zaid, Arvind joined, Praful joined,
There's only one person is missing. Okay, that's why I'm not getting. Okay, so if they are not given a name, that's why showing 8828384 and like this. So
Okay, maybe I'll make you the
okay,
just give us a minute.
okay, please continue.
Yeah, Vinith, Dinesh, Praful, and Arvind. These are the four guys who joined. Okay, Zai? Okay. So what we were discussing is it is a new product. It is a completely new product, and the full form of SAP S/4HANA is SAP Business Suite, suite, whatever you talk about, or how you spell it out, or how you pronounce it. So SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. Okay, so this is important. For means this four. So just remember this four stands for for. SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. Right? This is the full form of this particular new product. Okay, second thing you said it uses HANA database. So if I ask you the simple question, can I use SAP S4 HANA without HANA database? Is it possible? Can I use SAP S4 HANA with Oracle or DB2 or Microsoft SQL Server? Is it possible?
No.
It is not possible, right? The name itself clearly says that it is a SAP Business Suite which will only work on SAP HANA database, right? So it is a new product which will work only on HANA database. It is restructured to work on HANA database. Yes, so there are a lot of new codes that are written on SAP S4HANA system, and that code is written so that it can work easily on HANA database, right? It covers all the old functionalities. Again, when we say all the old functionalities, there are some exceptions. Okay, what we mean to say is it covers all the old processes. Okay, so whatever processes were available earlier, those all processes are covered. Functionality wise, there may be the difference. Okay,
Hey
so for
Vikram,
example,
Vikram, can you hear us?
yes, Praful.
Hey, we didn't hear you for the last 3-4 minutes.
Is it all or can you hear me now?
Hey
I
Vikram,
can
this is
hear you.
Arvind. Can you hear me now?
Yes, Arvind, I can hear you.
Okay, so yeah, I have the same issue for the past few minutes. I was not able to hear you.
Okay. Are
Yeah,
you
and
able to hear me?
one request, Vikram, can you enable the chat because the chat is disabled. So if we are not able to hear you or you're not able to hear us, the only way we can communicate is via the chat. It tells us
Okay.
chat is disabled. So if you can leave
No
the
problem.
chat on.
Can you see the option of chat now?
Yeah, one sec. Let me just make sure. Yeah,
Yep, I can see it.
Can you see the list of attendees also now?
yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So what we were discussing is maybe I'll start from again. So it is a new product which stands for SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. Right? The full form of this product is SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA. So this for stands for this four, right? And
Yeah.
as we discussed, I think this you heard properly. That is the reason you answered. So it is only possible to use SAP S4 HANA with HANA database only, because the name itself says that it is a business suite which will work only on HANA database, right? And the entire coding, whatever ABAP code is written in the background, there are some adjustments made for in order to work on the HANA database. Okay, so whatever codes were written earlier, they were working good on the traditional databases like Oracle, like DB2. But if you want to utilize the power of HANA, there was a requirement to rewrite some of the code. Okay, so there are some of the codes which are restructured in order to work on the HANA database. When it comes to the functionalities, okay, whatever processes were supported in MM, in SD, in FICO, PM, QM, whatever modules you talk about, whatever functionalities, whatever processes were supported in SAP ECC, those all processes are supported in S4HANA also. Plus, SAP provides some new functionalities in S4HANA. Okay, so that is exactly what we are going to discuss in this course. what are those functionalities which are impacted, what are those functionalities which are added for the first time, and what are the new functionalities which are not available at all in the system, right? It
Is
provides.
there any expansion for HANA itself?
Yeah, HANA stands for Highly Analytical Appliance. If you go with the full form of database, HANA database, it is Highly Analytical Appliance. Okay, we will discuss in detail why it is called as Highly Analytical Appliance. So we have a complete discussion on HANA also, where we will be discussing what is HANA, what are the properties of HANA, why HANA is faster compared to the other databases. Okay, so we'll come to that part. So the next one is simplifications. What do you mean by simplifications? Can you give me one example of simplification that has been taken place in S/4HANA compared to ECC?
The number of
Number of
tables have been considerably reduced.
Okay, that is right. What else? So you are saying that is called as data model. Whenever we are talking about the number of tables, just remember it is called as data model. Data model means how the data is going to be stored in the database. So in S/4HANA, we have the simplified data model, which consists of less number of tables. Any other functionality example which you know that it has been simplified in S/4HANA?
something the business rule framework BRF.
PRF, okay, I'm just writing it down as of now, but we will discuss about these topics in detail. So BRF plus is in place. You must be aware that MRP Live is going to simplify the old MRP process, right? Then
And the advanced ATP.
advanced ATP, yes, this is another functionality which is going to simplify the way in which you perform the ATP checks in the system. Okay, so these are just the examples. I don't want to go here with the complete list, but you got the idea. What do you mean by simplifications? Simplification means there are some functionalities which are working in the certain way in ECC, but now SAP realized that there is a chance of improvement. They improved these functionalities and now they are available and they will be executed in much faster way compared to ECC. So that is nothing but simplification. Okay, table structure, as I told you, just remember this term as simplified data model. So there are a lot of tables which are deleted. There are some new tables which are came into the a picture which were never available in ECC. Okay, so there are some changes in the way how the data will be stored in the tables, and that is called as simplified data model. Then you said in-memory computing. What do you mean by in-memory computing?
Means you don't have to, every time you're executing any piece of code, whatever data that's required is available in the live cache. You don't have to spend time sending a request to the database server to get the data, process it. Again, it needs any data, go back to the database. That's avoided.
Okay, so do you think that there is no need of database anymore because you are
No,
not
no,
going to database?
no, you need to, but the entire data is available in live cache. And I'm sure at the end of the transaction, you do have to store it in the database, but basically everything is available in live cache. So the number of or the time spent in accessing the database, sending a query to the database, getting relevant data, that's reduced.
Okay, so let me explain this point in little bit of detail. What exactly do you mean by in-memory computing? So we already know that there are three different layers, right?
Yeah.
When we talk about R3, three-tier architecture, what were those three layers in maybe SAP, ECC, or even in S/4HANA, it is going to be same. But can you tell me what were those three layers?
The database layer, the presentation layer,
Right?
The
And the
application.
last one,
application layer.
application, database, and presentation, right?
Yeah.
So let's say this is my presentation layer. This is my application layer, and this is my database layer. So can you tell me what exactly is the presentation layer? Currently, I'm working in front of my PC and I'm trying to do this transaction, let's say whenever we'll be looking in the system. So what is my presentation server?
Your
It's
laptop is your
just the
My
UI
laptop.
is the presentation, right?
Yes, my laptop with combination of the UI that I'm using. So for example, my laptop plus this particular UI that I'm going to use. Let me just show you. Okay, so this is a UI which I'll be using to connect to the SAP system, right? So my laptop plus the UI technology that I'm using to connect, that becomes my presentation layer. What is the application layer then?
that is where your programs are getting executed, your active commands are being executed.
Exactly, where the code is written, which is trying
Yeah.
to perform the transactions, right? So which
Yeah.
means if I go to this one, this is where I enter my application server, right?
Yeah.
So whenever I'll be doing any transaction, system will go in this application server, it will perform whatever calculations I want to do. And ultimately the third layer would be the database layer where the data will be stored. Okay, so just assume that this database layer, maybe I'll just show you here itself. So where exactly the data will be stored, once I log in into this system, okay, I can go to this status, right, system status, and I can go and see which database is being used in the background. So you can see the only possibility in SAP S/4HANA is that you will be always using HANA database. There is no option of other databases that we were using previously. So this is the database which is going to be in background. So now earlier, whatever traditional databases we were using, like Oracle, DB2, SQL, whatever you name it, whatever databases we were using, those databases, what they were doing is, now if we try to discuss this in detail, so within the database layer, maybe I will create, uh, yeah, in the database layer, I want to create two separations. So I'll copy this and do this once again. So within the database, let's talk about there is a RAM and there is a ROM or hard disk, right? So see, database is a system, database is a server, right?
Yeah.
In order to store the data, I need a server. That is the database server. Now within database server, although these are not two systems, it is one single system, which is database, which has some RAM, because RAM is required in each and every system. You cannot run the transactions without the RAM. And second is hard disk to store the data. Now you take an example of any database. Let's not talk about HANA. Let's talk about any other database. Let's assume that this is Oracle. So what happens in Oracle is whenever you'll be doing any transaction in the application layer from presentation, obviously. So I'm trying to create a purchase order. So I will be using my laptop. I'll be using the UI and I'll be connecting to the application. Through application, I'll go to transaction ME21N. And once I enter all the information and click on save, can you tell me where exactly the data will get stored if this is Oracle database?
In the hard disk drive.
In the hard disk drive. Is it possible to store the data in RAM directly?
No, I mean it's a volatile memory, so ultimately it has to reside in HD in the hard disk.
That is fine. What you are saying is this is volatile, so I cannot save the data in RAM, but I need to save the data in hard disk. That is correct. But can I at least create a copy? See, hard disk is there. Hard disk will store the permanent memory, but do I have the option that part of this hard disk data is also available on RAM? Why I'm asking about this is whenever you are doing the transaction or whenever you are trying to generate a report, let's assume that the data is already stored in this database. You created a purchase order and that purchase order is already there in the database. Now I want to generate a report for the list of purchase orders. So what will happen is if the data is available in hard disk, you already know, I think this is the basic thing. What is the basic difference between RAM and hard disk is RAM is always closer to your application. The first thing that the application will use is a RAM. And then after RAM, if the data is not available, it will go into the hard disk. So hard disk is away from the application compared to RAM. RAM is very closer to the application, right? And not only this, the basic difference, if I talk about RAM versus hard disk, RAM is 1,000 times faster than the hard disk, right? That is the reason. Let's take this example. Talk about your mobile device. Do you store the data in RAM in your mobile device? Is it possible to store the data in RAM?
While the application is being read, yeah, it is stored in the RAM.
Only the operational data, whatever transactions you are doing, that operational data is stored in RAM. But can I store my photos? Can I store my songs
No,
in RAM?
no.
So normally we not, right? If we are talking about these two different places where the data can be stored, RAM is only used to store the transactional information. Transactional information means whatever activities you are already doing. So if you are doing 10 different tasks, if it is in the process, then the partial of data will be stored in RAM. But once the activity is completed, all the data related to that particular file will go and stored in the hard disk. So the purpose of RAM is what? RAM is normally used in mobile devices, in computers, in your servers also to provide you the speed. More RAM means more speed. More RAM doesn't mean that you will be able to store more data. If you want to store more and more data, then you need more and more memory. You need more and more hard disk. If I talk about the mobile point of view, you need more and more secondary storage. Right? Simple. Let's take an example of mobile. If your mobile is slow, will you increase the uh, secondary storage or you will try to increase the RAM size? You will try to increase the RAM size, right? Because it is related to the speed.
Yeah,
But if you already completed, if you already occupied whatever was the secondary storage available, let's say you are using 32 GB of secondary storage. Let's say you already completed that and you have the option of secondary memory which can be introduced from outside. Okay, so external memory you can add. So that is to store more and more data, you need more and more secondary storage. So in this case, hard disk is a secondary storage. This is a primary storage, right? So traditionally, throughout all these years, be it a computer, be it a laptop, be it a mobile, be it a server, all the database servers, what they were doing is they were just performing the normal things in RAM and actual data was always getting stored in the hard disk. Okay, so what was the issue? The issue was whenever you are generating any kind of report, the report has to pick the data through RAM, through hard disk, and ultimately it will take a lot of time to come back, right? But now, what is going to happen in SAP S4HANA or SAP HANA database, to be very clear, even if you are not using S4HANA, no problem. Even if you are using ECC, but if you are using HANA database, what will happen is obviously all the data will go and reside in the hard disk. But at the same time, whatever data is available in hard disk, let's say if I in the hard disk, if I have 5 years of data, okay, so let's say my customer is using SAP from last 5 years. So out of this 5 years, I can tell the system that create a copy of last 1 year of data in RAM also, so that whenever I ask any information, any report related to the last 1 year, then I don't want system to travel to the hard disk. That information is created as a copy in the RAM also, which is also what Praful said is live cache. So what exactly it means is whenever you are performing the report, instead of traveling to the hard disk and taking more time, if the information is also available in RAM, then I don't need to travel to the hard disk. The information will be available from RAM and my reports will become much faster, right? But yes, what Arvind said is also correct. This is a volatile memory. So if the power goes off, then I will lose all my data, but no problem because this data is already stored in my hard disk also. And once the power will resume, what will happen is again that 1 year of data will move from hard disk to RAM.
Oh, so it's only a subset what they store in the live cache. It is still not the entire database.
It is not the entire database. It is a, if you see, it totally depends upon you. If you want to store the entire database, let's say my total database size is 200 GB, just for example. Why I'm saying 200 GB? Because we are using HANA. And if you are using HANA, it is a compressed data. So
Yeah.
whatever data you were using, let's say in Oracle of 1 TB, let's say that has become 200 GB now. So this 200 GB of data is for 5 years of data. Last 5 years of data is 200 GB. So the question is, will you ask customer to go for 200 GB of RAM? There is no point, right? Why do
Yeah.
you want to store all the data in RAM? You only want to store the data in RAM which you need on day-to-day reporting. You're not doing the day-to-day reporting of the last 5 years of data. So it is better that whatever data you want on day-to-day reporting purpose, only that data you can store in RAM. You don't need all the data to be stored.
So if I'm running a report for open orders, I could have an open order from 2 years ago. So in that case, we're saying part of the data, it'll pick up whatever is in RAM in the last 1 year, it'll pick up from the RAM. But
Right.
for any order that's open for more than a year, it'll still have to go to the hard disk and fetch that data.
Exactly. So whatever whatever data you have already stored in RAM, let's say if you are only storing 1 year of data in RAM, so what will happen is whenever you go for the list of open orders, it will pick all those data which is available in RAM first, and for the remaining data, it will still go to the hard disk and give you the data. So ultimately, you will get your report. It is not like you will be only getting the partial report.
Yeah.
You will get a complete report. But the partial data which is coming from RAM, it will save your time. So for example, if it is taking 1 millisecond to get one record from RAM, it may take 10 milliseconds to get it from hard disk. So that is where you are saving the time. Is it clear now?
Yep.
Okay, so when we say in-memory computing, what do you mean by in-memory computing? Just remember one thing, capability of the database, or maybe I'll write it here. So in-memory computing means capability of database to store data in primary memory. What is primary memory?
RAM.
Right. So previously, whatever databases we were using, like Oracle, DB2, SQL, they were not able or they were not capable to store any data in RAM. All the data was getting stored in the hard disk itself. Right. And that is the reason whenever you generate a report, it was taking a lot of time because each query, each report, when you execute, it has to travel through RAM to hard disk to fetch the information and then give it back to the user. Right. So in-memory means capability of the database to store the data in the primary memory, that is nothing but RAM. Is it
Hey,
clear now?
Hey, just one more question, Vikram. So when you said this, like 1 year worth of data, it dynamically keeps changing, like with every passing day, it deletes the last day and adds.
No,
Um,
that depends. That depends upon how you want to do it. So it is not required to be updated on day-to-day basis. What we can do is, what about archiving? So it is just a concept of archiving. What exactly you are doing is you are throwing the data from RAM to the hard disk, right? Maybe on the
yeah.
daily basis, on the weekly basis, or on the monthly basis. So if I ask you the simple question, do you archive? What is archival of data? Archiving of data means whatever data is available in your database, you are sending it out of the database. So let's say a customer says, in my SAP system, I want only last 5 years of data. Okay, if the data becomes more than 5 years, throw it out and keep it in the completely external device. So how you carry out archiving? Is it on the daily basis, weekly basis, monthly or yearly basis?
Okay.
Different answer from different customers, right?
Yeah.
Some customers are doing monthly, some customers are doing yearly, some customers are even not doing from last 2 3 years. So here also there is a choice. So you can move the data from RAM to hard disk whenever, like whatever is the customer's requirement, but it is still recommended to carry out this activity at least once in a month or once in a 6 months, because otherwise your RAM will consume more memory, which means even if you are using RAM, your system will be still slow because you are not utilizing it properly.
But as
So,
soon as you, sorry,
Vikram, a question for you. So, what is the RAM requirement for a HANA database server compared to the earlier version using Oracle?
No, it totally, again, this is also, there is something called as HANA sizing. Okay, we will talk about that topic. HANA sizing means the question that you asked. Now, if I ask you the simple question, if there are three different customers, one is a very big customer who is having operations all over the world, and there is another customer who is very small customer, they just started their business 2 years ago. So, do you think the RAM requirement would be same for both the customers?
No, I understand that. I'm just saying if for a customer he was using the Oracle database, and if he moves on to say HANA database, so
Mhm.
how does his RAM requirement change? Same
Exactly.
customer.
So
Yeah,
there is
yeah,
something called as HANA sizing.
yeah.
Okay, which
So
is
we'll talk about it later, right?
yes, we had
So,
that topic.
right then, thanks.
hey, so and just one more point, Vikram. So let's say when I'm executing a transaction, say I create a sales order,
Mm-hmm.
that will, the very instance it is created and saved and I get an order number, it would
Right.
immediately be transferred to the database as well, right? Although it will retain that in the memory, but whatever
Yeah.
transactions I create, it will immediately be saved at database level also, correct?
Definitely. Yes. It will be immediately saved to the database. So ultimately, we need to save all the database to the hard
Yeah.
disk.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, if you go technicality wise, uh, there are many things in between this also, RAM and hard disk. Okay. So there is a like the example that you said, live cache. Live cache is actually responsible to make sure that these two are consistent. Okay, but that is very technical. We don't need to worry about that. But just remember that hard disk is still holding complete data. Okay, and RAM is only holding partial data, which is required for the day-to-day reporting. So no need to worry. Even if the power goes off, whatever data was available in RAM, that can again get restored once the power comes up. Okay.
Okay.
So that was in-memory computing. Okay, so whenever you hear this terminology in-memory computing, just remember that previous databases, whatever databases we were using, those were not capable of storing the data in the RAM directly. And that is the reason it was taking a lot of time to gather that data. But now when we are talking about SAP HANA, it is in-memory computing, and that is the reason it is much faster compared to the traditional databases. So one reason why HANA is faster is because of in-memory computing. Okay, coming to the next one. What is OLTP and OLAP? What do you mean by OLTP? What is the
It's
full form of it?
online transaction processing,
Okay, online transaction processing. And what do you mean by OLAP?
online analytical processing. So that's basically your reports.
Okay, so yeah, so whenever you do the transactions, let's say you are creating the sales orders or you are creating the billing documents from the SD point of view, and later on, if you want to generate a report, okay, which report you want to generate? I'm not talking about the list of sales orders that you can very easily get from the existing system itself.
Yeah.
But if I want to show you the graphs, graphical format, if I want the graphical formats,
Yeah.
right? I
Yeah.
want to see the list of top 10 customers, region wise, area wise. I can go and change the criteria and system should show me the graphical reports. Is it possible to generate those reports in the same SAP ECC system?
No.
No,
It is not possible. Why it is not possible? But if I want to generate those reports, what is the option?
you have to have a BWI or a HANA reporting and you generate it off of those dashboard analytics or
Right. So
business.
so I need the separate system for the analytical purpose, where I will pull the data from the transactional system and generate the reports. So this external system can be SAP's own BW system, or it can be many other tools which are available in the market, which are the third-party tools. Or simply I can use Excel also, just for example. So what is happening is you have two different systems, one for transactional system, one for transactional purpose, and second for the reporting purpose, the analytical purpose. I cannot club OLTP and OLAP in one single system. Now, when we are talking about SAP S/4HANA, there are many analytical reports which are available as a part of the system. Because in SAP S/4HANA, SAP has provided embedded BW. Okay, so the BW system which was external till now, which was getting the data on the historical basis, right? Whenever you are generating the BW reports, those are not the real-time reports because you are sending the data from the transactional system to BW maybe once in a day or once in a week or once in a month, right? But now, if the embedded BW is available, there is no need of sending the data to the second system because everything is available in one single system. And that is the reason what SAP is saying is if you go for SAP S/4HANA, your OLTP and OLAP will work in the same system. Okay, so what you will achieve by this, first thing you will achieve is real-time reporting. Second thing you will achieve is there is no need to manually transfer the data from one system to another system. Third thing is you don't need multiple different servers. You don't need a separate BW server and separate ECC server. One single S/4HANA system, which will make sure that all these three things are achieved in one single system. Okay, clear on this now? What do you mean by OLTP? What is OLAP and what has been changed?
Yeah.
Okay. Then there is a new user interface. Okay, so whatever transactions we were doing till now, let me just give you the glimpse of what is Fiori. So see what we were doing till now is whenever you want to work on SAP system, the only option was you have to use this SAP logon pad. Okay, or maybe if you are using the this one single sign-on or something, then you can do it via the web browser also. But even if you log in through the web browser, the screens are exactly same as what you are able to see here. Okay, so just to give the example, so whenever I want to do any transaction in this SAP system, the only option is I can go through this navigation or I can enter the transaction code. So for example, if I want to create a purchase order, I will go to transaction ME21N and it gives me this transaction, right? Now, the new generation requirement. New generation requirement means, see, everywhere, whatever activity you call about, ticket booking, if you want to go for the movie booking, if you want to do the banking, all these things can be done very easily on the mobile device. But today, forget about SAP S/4HANA. If I ask you in ECC, is it possible to do the transactions from your mobile device? Maybe approvals, if you are using some smaller activities, yes, you can do the approvals and all. But if I ask you to do the transaction processing, is it possible to do your mobile device?
No.
No.
If I give you the web link, if I give you some link which will open this create purchase order screen, but the screen will appear like this. So even if you are able to open through the web browser, but if I ask you to enter the information in this older way, will you find it useful or it will be more tedious? The number one is you want the option to generate or do the transactions from mobile device. So let's say SAP says, okay, no problem. I'll give you the link. Just go to this link and it will open the same screen. Same, exactly same screen. Do you think it is of any value?
No.
It would be very difficult on the small mobile screen to enter all these details, click on this button to open, and there are many different fields. It will be very tedious task to do this transaction from the mobile device. So what is the solution? The solution is we want to simplify the screen. We cannot use this screen as it is through the mobile device. If you want to use mobile device to perform the transactions, we need the simpler version of the screen. And that is exactly what SAP has done with SAP Fiori. Okay, but just remember one thing, SAP Fiori is still a developing product. Okay, from the mobile point of view, from the tab point of view, or from the laptop and computer point of view, it is already matured. So still there are a lot of improvements which are required, but comparatively it is matured compared to using it from the mobile device. Okay, so when I'm saying that it is possible to do everything from mobile, there are a lot of restrictions. Okay, so it is not very straightforward. You will go to the mobile and you'll be able to execute those transactions. We will discuss about all those details when I'll be showing you the SAP Fiori in detail. But as of now, let me just show you how the Fiori screen will look like for the same create purchase order transaction. Okay, so this was a way in which we were creating the purchase order earlier. Now let's see using Fiori how you can create a purchase order. Okay, this is Fiori. So earlier, in order for SAP ECC or the SAP GUI, we were double clicking on this and it was asking us user ID and password. Same way, now it is asking user ID and password here. So let me enter my user ID and password. Okay, so once I enter my user ID and password, it will connect me to the system where it will be showing me all the different applications that I have the access to. Okay, so these are called as Fiori apps. Okay, we will discuss in detail what are the different Fiori apps and all. As of now, I just want to show you one single transaction to create a purchase order. Okay, so there are no transaction codes on Fiori. You cannot execute the transaction codes here. But if you want to search for a particular object, for example, I want to go for manage purchase orders. Okay, you can see manage purchase order centrally. Then there are some other options. So I'll go with manage purchase orders. Let's go with this one. So this is the application which will open manage purchase order screen. Now, if you compare this screen with the screen that we had in the transaction ME21, you will feel that this is much simpler screen compared to the earlier one. So if I want to create a new purchase order, I'll click on this plus button, create purchase order. Okay, it will ask me for which plant I want to create. Let's do the, I think there is no data in the system, but we'll talk about this in detail. But what I wanted to show you here is it is very simple compared to ECC. See, there is no purchase order as of now created in this particular system, and that is the reason it is completely blank, right? But see the way in which it is simplified. Okay, so there are many simplifications in terms of the user interface. So what SAP is trying to do is SAP is trying to create a better GUI for executing the transactions from your mobile devices, from tabs, in addition to laptop and computers that you were already using. Okay, so one benefit of this simplified transactions is it can be easily accessible from the mobile device. The second very important thing why SAP is developing this simpler transaction is you will need less time to provide the training to the end users. Okay, so today if you want to provide the training to the end user, these screens are very complicated. Okay, it is not easy for the customer or the end user to understand how to create a purchase order because there are a lot of fields, there is a lot of confusion. But when SAP provided this Fiori apps, there are only few fields that you need to enter. Okay, so SAP identified which are the important fields which are being used by most of the customers. Only those fields are available here with the option that if a customer wants additional fields to be bring out, you can do the little bit customization and you will be able to see your own field also available here. So instead of 200, 300 fields in the purchase order, here it will be only 20, 30 fields, which will be simpler for the end user also to learn for the first time. Right? So don't worry about Fiori as of now. At least you got the idea what is Fiori. Fiori is a new user interface which will simplify the way in which you do the transactions, which will also allow you to do your transactions from mobiles and tabs. Now, if I ask you the simple question, when we say SAP S/4HANA comes with the new user interface that is Fiori, is it the only option, or I can use the old traditional GUI also? Can I still use transaction ME21 and other transactions that we were using in S/4HANA, or the only option is SAP Fiori?
No, I think you can still use the old transactions. You go logging in the traditional way, right?
Exactly. So it depends upon what you are using. If you are using on-premise system, right? If you are using on-premise system, you have the option of using Fiori or the old GUI. Okay, so if a customer is going for on-premise system, they will getting the option that they can continue to use the traditional GUI, and in addition, they can implement SAP Fiori. But if you are talking about the cloud, okay, in cloud, the only option is Fiori. You cannot execute the transactions using the older screens. Older screens are not given to the customers at all. If the customer wants to do the transactions, it is only possible through Fiori.
So, what about SPRO functionalities in cloud version?
Again, so if you are using on-premise, you have the SPRO access, you can configure whatever you want. But if you are using cloud, then there is no SPRO. Okay, there are self-service apps which are provided to configure your solution again from Fiori itself.
Okay.
Okay, but that is a big story. We will talk about that in detail when we'll be discussing the difference between on-premise and on-cloud. Okay, why SAP has not provided the traditional GUI, why Fiori is the only option, why SAP has not provided SPRO for cloud. There are reasons for that. Okay, so we will discuss maybe in tomorrow's session what is the basic difference between on-premise and on-cloud.
And there's one more, hybrid.
Hybrid is combination of both. So if you have a multi-system landscape, so some of the systems you are using on-premise and some of the systems you are using cloud, then it becomes the hybrid combination.
Okay.
Okay, but what do you think? What is the basic, like why SAP came up with the cloud option?
That was for
So
smaller companies or smaller, they wanted to get smaller customers as well who are purely doing cloud-based business processes. So, I mean, there was a previous version called SAP Business One, which is also mostly cloud-based, or so they adapted that also as part of Fiori.
Okay, no, but you are right. It will be used by the small customers. But what is the benefit the customers will get? What is the basic difference if a customer
they don't
comes to
need
you?
to they don't need to make that huge investment in the hardware and software. They will pay it's like pay as you go, pay for what you are using
Exactly.
on a per
Exactly.
user
That is
basis.
the basic difference. So it is all about cost of hardware. Okay, so whenever you are going for on-premise system, let's say if I am a customer and you are the consultants, if I ask you that I want to go for S/4HANA, what are the different options? So you'll come to me and you will say, okay, if you want to go for on-premise, there is a huge investment. Okay, so I'm not telling you the figure because it totally depends upon which hardware you are going for, what are the different options. So you will say, okay, there is a one-time investment that you need to make, and then you need to pay the licensing fees every year for using the software. So for hardware, you need to pay one-time investment, and for software, you can keep on paying me licensing fees every year. But if I'm a smaller company and I don't have that much amount for investing, and at the same time, even I'm not 100% sure that whether SAP will be able to really be compatible with my requirements. So if I do the investment today, later on I realize, oh, I'm not getting the desired benefits. So what is the option? I will take a less risk. How I'll do that? So I'll tell, okay, can you provide me the hardware also? Whatever licensing is required for hardware, whatever subscription charges are required for the hardware, I'll pay you on the quarterly basis. So this option was not available with SAP till now. If you are talking about SAP ECC till 2011, there was no option from SAP to provide the hardware also on rent, on the subscription basis. Due to which what was happening is bigger customers are okay, they can go for on-premise. But smaller customers, because they were not ready to make this investment, they were going for the other ERP vendors. Okay, and that is the reason SAP now, in order to get those customers also, they came up with the cloud option. Okay, but again, I'm not saying that only small customers will go for cloud, because SAP is also not only SAP, it is also very well, like even if you see the industry, many big customers are also going for cloud because they don't want the headache to manage the servers on their own. They want to outsource everything, the hardware, the software, everything they want to outsource to the customer, sorry, to the vendor, so that they can focus only on their main processes instead of worrying about the hardware maintenance. Okay, so again, we will discuss this in detail, on-premise versus cloud. But just remember, the basic difference is in case of on-premise, there is hardware investment. Software, you can pay the licensing fees every year. In case of cloud, hardware as well as software, you are taking on rental basis or subscription basis. So whenever you want to use, you pay it. If you don't want to use, just close the deal, whatever you had, and you can go for the other software. Okay, so that is the basic difference between on-premise and cloud. Okay, and then comes the last topic that at least we identified, you told me earlier, it is columnar-based database. So I think what time we are okay? Can we continue for next 10-15 minutes, or it is only for 1 hour?
Uh, maybe we can continue another 10 minutes or so if you want.
Yeah, if it is fine with all.
Yeah.
I need to, because this columnar database will require some detailed discussion. That is the reason it will take at least 10 minutes. Let's
We
continue.
leave it to, okay, I was just going to say we leave it to you. If you think it is something we can do now, sure. If you think it has to be a fresh topic, then we can start tomorrow. Entirely up to you.
No, I'm completely fine with it, but I'm not sure, like maybe not only today. You can tell me like whether you want to have 1 hour of session or 1.5 hour is fine with you.
I'm most of the days I'm okay with 1.5 hours, but you can ask everybody else.
Yeah, so anyone has any problem if we continue for 1.5 hour on the daily basis?
No, I don't. I'm good.
Yep, no issues. I'm okay.
Everybody is okay, right?
Provided we start on time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Obviously. So we will close by 8 a.m. IST. Okay,
Okay.
so for you, I think by 9:30
Okay.
EST.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, so let's now talk about the columnar-based database. Okay, what is the basic? Maybe instead of showing you on the slides, I will need the Excel for this. So let me open a new Excel sheet. Yes. So see, in SAP, can you tell me how the data is stored in the database? If I go to SE11 or SE16N, and if I try to see the data, let's go and see. So whenever
It's
you
by
want to
rows.
see anything in the tables, right? If you
Yeah.
go to SE11 or SE16N and just write whatever is your table. So let's say this BUT000, which is a business partner table. If I execute, it will give me the list of all the records which are stored in the table, right? And how exactly I'm able to see the data? Is it in the row-based form or in the column-based form?
It's in a row-based form.
No, I mean how I'm seeing the data. Is it only row or column also?
It's in column also.
It is both, right? So this is my column and this is my row.
Yeah.
So whenever I am looking at the data using transaction SE11 or SE16N or any other transaction which allows you to have the display of the table, I'm always able to see the data in the column as well as row format. And even when we understood what is a table, when you were understanding the database concepts during your college time, table is what? Table is a combination of rows and columns. So our understanding throughout these years, if you are not coming from the technical background as a functional consultant, our understanding was the data is always getting stored in the form of rows as well as columns. That is the reason it is stored in the table, right? But the problem is, technically, in the background, data is not stored in both the forms. Data is either stored in this row-based form, so this is a row, or it is stored in the column-based form. This is a column. Now let's take the example of the same table itself, BUT 000. Okay, so instead of SE16, it will be easier for me to explain using SE11. Okay, if I go for display. Now, how many columns are available in this table? In this BUT 000 table, there are 118 columns, right? So there are 118 columns. Let me open this SE16N once again and show the data here. So the definition is available here and the data is available in the second screen. Now I have 118 columns in this table. And let's assume I am using non-HANA database. I'm using Oracle, I'm using DB2. And as I told you, the data is either stored in row or it is stored in column. Okay, which means if I'm using Oracle database, the only possibility was to store the data in the row-based form like this.
Yeah.
Right? So data is stored in this form, in the table. Now what is the problem? Let's assume I want to generate a report. In the report, I want to see the BP number, which is this business partner number, and I want to see the grouping, business partner number, business partner grouping, and maybe the name, okay, which is here, name one, only 3 columns. Business partner, grouping, and name one. Only these 3 columns I want to see in my report. Out of how many columns? Out of 118 columns. Right? What will happen is, whenever you execute this report, okay, you have written the report, select business partner, grouping, name one from BUT 000 table. What will happen is, the data, the report, it will try to go in each and every record completely. Okay, so let me write it here just to make you understand very clearly. So I want to select business partner number. Okay, so partner field, grouping field, and name one field from BUT 000, where, okay, I'm restricting it to, okay, restrict it to grouping, where grouping is 0001. Simple. I want to show only those business partners where the grouping is 0001, and out of 118 columns, I want to show only 3 columns in my report. Right? So if I execute this report in the database, which is storing the data in the form of row, what will happen is, once you execute the report, it will go and scan the complete record because the data is not stored in the form of column. It will store, or sorry, it will scan all the 118 columns in the report, in the table. So let's assume if one column, if I want to scan one column, if it is taking 1 millisecond per column, how much time this report will take to give the output? 1 millisecond per column. If I store the data in the form of row, how much time this report will take to execute, considering 1 millisecond per column?
1 millisecond times 118 columns and times number of rows present.
No, let's assume that I'm talking about all the rows together.
Yeah, but you put a filter for just the grouping, right? So So
No.
let's say if there are 100 records for the grouping 001, 100 times 118.
Okay, let's assume whatever you are saying is correct. Okay, so that is fine. So you are saying if there are 100 records, not only grouping, because you are scanning not only 001, you are scanning this also, but you are not showing this in the output.
Correct.
So let's say there are 500 records in this table. Okay, let's assume it is 500 records in this table. So if one record and one column is taking 1 millisecond, then it means for 118 columns, it will be 118 multiplied by 500 rows, right? So if the data is stored in row-based format, what will happen? Assuming there are 500 rows and 118 columns. System will take, again, there is one more assumption here. Per column and row is taking 1 millisecond to scan. Okay, this is an assumption. So according to this, total time for report generation is equal to 118 multiplied by 500, right? So this is a problem. Although in my report I only want to concentrate on 3 columns, but it is still continuing to scan 118 columns. So what will happen if the data is stored in the row-based form, in the column-based form instead of row-based? Now if I copy the same thing, and if my data is stored in the column-based form, then what do you think? What will happen? Now system only needs to scan 3 columns.
3 columns.
So this will take this much time. That is the first benefit of using the column-based data storage. If you are using column-based data storage, it will save a lot of time. Now with this example, I'll ask you one simple question. Is there anyone from SD here?
Yes.
Okay. When you go for VA05, when we execute transaction VA05, okay, and if I just provide the sales order number or maybe some fields here, which table will be used in the background to fetch the information?
It will use a whole logical database, right? Not just one table, because it has to get header, item, status from everything. It has to, depending on whether you run it for open orders or all orders.
Right. No, but if I only want to see the orders, I don't want to see the items.
No, but VA05 will give you the items per se, right? It will not, you don't have the option of not seeing items in VA05.
Yes, Praful, you're right. But just assume that I just want to see the list of sales order at the header level. So
Okay.
which table stores
VBAC.
this information?
VBAC.
You are saying VBAK, right?
Yeah.
VBAK. So if I go to VBAK,
About, I think, 256 plus columns.
yes, if I go to definition of VBAK and display, it is having 156 columns. So maybe there is a change in ECC versus, we will compare that, but let's assume there are 156 columns. Okay, and again, let's assume there are 500 rows. So it will take this much time.
Yeah.
And that is the reason we normally don't use this table. You know, there is another table which is VAKPA.
Yeah, that's the index table, VAKPA, right?
Exactly, that is the index table. And what is the need of this index table?
I think faster access I get.
Faster access, it is only having 19 columns.
19 columns.
So this is actually speaking, VAKPA is not adding any value. VAKPA is just created as the subset of VBAK.
Yeah.
Just to, if I go to this VBAK and see same report, in order to get the same report, I can either go to table VBAK to get the information, or I can go to VAKPA for information. So if all the data, whatever data is available in VAKPA, if this data is already available in VBAK, why do I need this VAKPA? This is the reason why SAP has created a subset so that the reporting time can be reduced. But what is the cost? The cost is unnecessarily you are creating a copy of the same table. So it is like you are storing one song multiple times,
Yeah.
which is unnecessarily increasing your database size. Now with column-based data storage, if I'm using column-based data storage, then do I need this index table anymore?
No.
Because it will take only 19. Why? Because it is using column-based data storage and it has nothing to do with the number of columns anymore. Right? And that is the reason in S/4HANA, index tables are deleted. There are no more index tables in S/4HANA. All these tables which are unnecessarily created as a subset just to reduce the number of columns, these tables are no more available in S/4HANA because we are using column-based data storage. Okay, hope you understood what is the benefit of
Yeah.
column-based data storage now.
Hey, but Vikram, just one basic question, and pardon me if this is very basic because I'm a functional consultant. The earlier example where you said you're taking only 3 fields. As soon as I get those three data elements, I don't need to scan the rest of the columns, right? When the program is running and I only want partner, group 1 and name 1, let's say partner number is the second field, grouping is probably the 10th field, and name 1 is the 15th field. As soon as it got all 3 fields, it doesn't need to scan rest of the columns, right? Because it's got what it was looking for.
Definitely, that is the reason it is only taking 3 seconds.
No, but even in a row-based database, I'm scanning the table. As soon as I'm scanning the columns, there are 118 columns. Say partner number is the second value, grouping is the
Right,
10th value, and name 1 is the 15th value. As soon as
right.
I got this 3, the code doesn't
Mhm.
really have to scan through the remaining 100 columns, right?
Exactly. So that is a reason when you store the data in the row-based form, that option is not available. When you store the data in the row-based form, this entire row becomes one record. It is not able to segregate inside. If you are
Okay.
storing the data in the row-based form, it is not possible to scan only those columns. It will scan the complete row.
Okay, now, so what Praful was trying to ask is, say, we are looking at up to search term 2. Search term 2 is our last field that we need on the report. So as soon
Hmm.
as we get the data for search term 2 in record in row 1, so we already have that value, right? So it can skip the entire row and go to the next row.
No.
Yeah.
I don't think that is possible with the row-based approach. If you are using
Okay.
row-based approach, it will scan the complete record. It will not stop in between.
Okay.
That is the reason why they came up with this column-based data storage.
Okay.
So this is one of the reason. There are two actually. When it comes to column-based data storage, you need to remember 2 points. So as of now, we understood just one example, one reason why the column-based data storage is faster. Second is another very important feature, which is most important than the first one, or maybe both are important. Second one is data is stored in compressed form. Very good benefit, right?
Yeah.
So let's say I told you you have 1 TB of data in your Oracle database. Now, if you just upgrade to HANA without doing anything else, okay, because HANA uses column-based data storage and column-based data storage is stored in the compressed form. Automatically, you will be left with 1/5 of the database size. So out of 1 TB, your database size will automatically become 200 GB. It is just a rough figure. Okay, so there is one example where SAP has shown for one of the customer also. So maybe let me see if I can show you here. It is called as data footprint reduction. SAP HANA, I should write SAP HANA. Yes, if you see this example, can you see this?
Yeah,
Is
the
it clearly
numbers are not
visible?
legible, values are not legible still. Yeah,
Is it okay now?
yeah, yeah.
Okay. See, this is the example which is shared by SAP. So there was a customer. This is an example which is for the live customer where they performed this. They activated HANA and then S4 HANA. So when this customer was using ECC on traditional database, now traditional database, as I told you, it can be anything, Oracle, DB2, SQL, whatever it was. So the size was around 600 GB. Okay, around 600 GB of the total database size. Now, when this customer, they implemented SAP HANA database on ECC itself. They are not implemented S4 HANA. They just implemented HANA database. The size got reduced to around 120 GB, which is around 20 times. Sorry, it is only 20%. So out of 600 GB, we are left with 120 GB, which means around 20% of the total database size is left. Why this has happened? Just because of the compression. We have still not deleted the tables. I told you in S4 HANA, there are index tables which are deleted. But do you think if I upgrade my database to HANA, it will automatically delete the tables?
No.
No, I mean,
This
it's
deletion
not
of
supposed to.
table, right? Deletion of tables is not on the HANA database. Deletion of table is on S4 HANA application, right? So if you are using 600 GB of data today, once you migrate to SAP HANA database, due to compression, you will be left with only 20% of the total database size, right? Now from here, if you migrate to S4 HANA, okay, this customer has migrated from ECC on HANA database to SAP S4 HANA application. Again, the database size has been reduced from 120 GB to around 42 GB, which is another reduction of maybe 30% is left. So overall, if you see, it is less than 10%. Okay, now why this simplification? Why there is a database reduction here? Because SAP has removed unwanted tables. Index tables which were created just to provide the speed, those are not required now. That is the reason those tables are deleted and we are only left with the main tables. So the database size has been reduced to 42 GB. Now, this is the question here. If you remember, I told you earlier. So if you tell the customer that, okay, currently you are using Oracle and you are storing all your 600 GB of data on the hard disk. Now, if you migrate to S4 HANA, how much RAM do you need? So you cannot tell the customer that you need around 50 GB of RAM, because I told you this 42 or 50 GB data, this is not the current year data. This is the data which is there from last 5 years, 10 years, whatever this customer has used in the database, right? So you don't need to store all this data on the RAM. Partial data you can store on RAM, and the historical data, which is more than 1 or 2 years old, you can store in hard disk. And that is the reason you can see out of this 42.4 GB of data, only around 9 GB or 10 GB of data is actual. Actual means current data, which you are using on day-to-day basis for your reportings. The other 30 GB of data is related to the historical years. And that is the reason that can be easily stored in hard disk. So you can see this is example. So total 5 years of data was stored, out of which 1 year of data is only stored in the RAM. So on an average, if a customer's database is 600 GB, you need only around 10 GB of RAM to store the data. Okay, this is called as data sizing, the question which Dinesh was asking earlier. So There is a tool from SAP. Now, who will decide if a customer wants to move to S/4HANA? How will you tell him how much RAM do you need? So it is not very straightforward. You can make the calculation and tell that, okay, you need this much of RAM. So SAP provides the tool. Whenever you are planning, your customer is planning to go for S/4HANA, you have to contact SAP. SAP will run one tool on your system and they will tell you, they will recommend you how much RAM you should deploy. Okay, this is called as database sizing, where they will be telling you how much RAM, how much hard disk would be required if you want to migrate to S/4HANA. Clear on this now?
Yep.
Yep.
So compression is another benefit of SAP HANA database. SAP HANA is not only providing, or sorry, not SAP HANA, definitely SAP HANA, but within SAP HANA, column-based data storage. Column-based data storage is providing you two benefits. Number one, it is allowing you to reduce the reporting time because you need to only scan those columns which are required in the report. That is the reason now, even if there is a table of 500 records, see, that is exactly what SAP has done. SAP came up with a new table, which is MATDOC. Okay, so sorry, this is ECC. I think let me log off from here to avoid confusion. This is S/4HANA. So if I go to SE11 and try for MATDOC display, see, they came up with a table with 345 records. In ECC, why this type of table was not available? Why there was two separate tables for header and lines? There was a table MKPF which was storing the header information and MSEG which was storing the line level information. So MKPF and MSEG, these were the two tables that we were using in ECC, right? So 238 plus 35. Now this MKPF and MSEG both are deleted and only MATDOC is available. How it is possible? The question is first, why SAP divided the header and line tables? Reason is same. There were many number of columns and SAP wanted to divide it so that the reportings can become faster. Now, when we are talking about column-based data storage, we don't need to worry about how many columns are there in the table, right? And that is the reason even if we replace the header and line table with one single table, it will not make any difference. Even it will be better because you don't need to go for two separate tables to fetch the information. Everything is available at one single place. Clear on this?
Yep, clear.
Yeah, so that is the benefit of a columnar-based database. Just to summarize what we discussed today, so we understood SAP S/4HANA is a new product, which stands for SAP Business Suite for SAP HANA, which will only work on SAP HANA database. Okay, so there is a restructuring done. There are some processes which are simplified to make it applicable for SAP HANA database. It provides you old features plus some new functionalities we will discuss in detail. It provides you a lot of simplifications. We just now seen the simplification related to the data model, which is less number of tables, compression, column-based data storage, in memory. These are all the simplifications which are from the data model point of view. Okay, same again, table restructure. In-memory computing, which means storing the data directly in the RAM instead of storing in the hard disk. OLTP and OLEP. So OLTP means transactions which were carried out in ECC and analytical reports were generated in BW, which was a separate system. Now we can work in the same system. S/4HANA provides you OLTP and embedded OLAP, which means your transactions and reportings can be carried out in one single system. New user interface in the form of Fiori, which can be accessed from mobile device with simpler screens. Comes with the option of on-premise and cloud, so that those customers who don't have that much budget, they can also go for SAP S/4HANA by saving the one-time investment. And finally, we discussed about columnar-based database. Right, so we will close today, and tomorrow we will talk about the other things which you are not told, which I need to cover, and followed by SAP Activate, and then we'll be ready to work on the system directly.
Okay. Hey Vikram, a couple of things. Would you be sending us this PowerPoint so that we can just kind of
Yes,
revise whatever was
yes, I'll be
discussed?
sharing this PowerPoint as well as the recording of each and every session.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now the other thing was, can we have a WhatsApp group of the entire team so that communication becomes
That
easier,
you have
right?
to check with Sahir because that is from the coordination point of view. So you can check with Zahir. I don't have any problem in that.
Okay. Is Zahir, is he on the call or has he left?
I don't think so. Maybe he will be
Okay.
calling you. You can just text
Okay.
him.
Okay. So, and then I think sending the email, do we have to get a new email daily or can we just have like one thing that could be used on a regular basis?
Sorry, what is that?
Can we have like one email or a one link that will work throughout the duration of the class, or is it like every day we'll have to wait for
No, no,
this
no. It will not be every day, but whenever we will change, we will send the mail. So as of
okay,
now, tomorrow you can join the same link, what you
same
used
link?
today.
Okay, yeah,
If there is any change, we will let you know.
okay,
Okay, then. Thank you all. We'll see you tomorrow.
okay. Thank you.
Thank
Thank
you, Vikram.
you.